Hello, my name is Phil Clapp. I'm practice manager here at Generation E.
Hi, I'm Michael Tresser, and I'm one of the co-hosts of Teams Friday along with Martin Boehm. You didn't know it, but the show already started.
When?
When you said, hi, I'm Phil Clapham.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
Oh, you're ready now?
I'm ready now. Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to think about what to say. So, first of all, thanks for coming to Sydney for the second time.
Let me start this by thanking this gentleman. I'm gonna go on a little diatribe, and if a tear comes out of my eyes, it's
mine.
just because I don't want you to. So Phil is one of the hosts of the Microsoft Teams Devices Ask Me Anything in Asia. And for a while, when I didn't care about sleep, I would get up about 2 or 3 a.m. my time and join their calls. But actually, before that, he would get up 2 or 3 a.m. his time and join the Americas calls. And I just remember this surly Australian always asking these negative questions. And I'm like, who the is this guy? Like, oh God, I hear the voice. I'm like, him again. Over time, I learned that he's not surly and negative. He's thoughtful and wants to think through everything and doesn't just take things for granted at surface level. Once I learned of that, I was looking forward. Oh, wait, the good part's coming. I was looking forward to hear what he had to say because then I realized it was insightful. So at that point, my opinion definitely changed from, who the hell is this guy, to I want to hear what he has to say. Because I'm one of the hosts of Teams Devices Ask Me Anything, he is as well. We've communicated over time. And I told him, hey, I'm coming to Sydney for work. I'll be there. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? I'll take you out for dinner. So I fly into Sydney, go to a Greater Western Sydney Giants game. Hang on.
He's got the hat and everything.
I won't take it off the bag, but go GWS.
Yeah.
GWS Giants, baby. They were second in the finale last year. I'm going to try to take it off, whatever. And then his wife and children took me to a lovely brewery, had some dinner. So he and his family gave up a Saturday evening to take me around. His wife took pictures. They took me to a park by the harbor that I didn't know existed. Your wife took pictures of me because when you travel alone, it's tough.
Right.
I'm not a big selfie guy.
Yeah.
So it was a lovely time. And that's where I really got to know Phil more as a person than just somebody on the internet. This year, he went even further, packed up the wife and kids, picked me up at the airport, and then took me to another lovely brewery around Manly. Gave up his Sunday night.
Sunday afternoon.
So I really want to thank you. I want to publicly be known. I appreciate you taking the time out for me. Who the hell am I? And I appreciate everything you've done and been an excellent host in Australia.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. And who the hell are you? You're someone that's important to me, and that was fun. It was always a Sunday and a Saturday adventure, not just for me, but the family, because it's so rare, actually, that we get people come into country to talk to us. And, you laugh, but it's true. It's so far away. Us having to go there, you having to come here, it's a big effort to make. So we want to encourage more and more people to come out, and that's why we love it when we see and make appearances.
Yeah, that's one of the things I heard about my work trips here was the same sense. Nobody comes to Asia or Australia. Nobody comes. You guys have to go to Europe or the Americas, be it to ISE or whatever events at Comsverse in London, and you have your own events, but they don't seem to have some of that global draw that some of the events in the Americas and Europe have. And so a lot of people were appreciative that I came, that somebody who has some little very minor global reach came to Asia as opposed to having you guys go there.
It's a highly penetrated market here, right? So there's a lot of sophistication in the user base. There's a lot of sophistication in the partner base. So when people come out, it really means something to us. And it's hard to get to the US. It's hard to get to Europe. And after COVID, it was near impossible.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know that if we left, could we even get back into the country?
Correct.
Like we didn't even know that was possible. So there's a little bit of hangover for that as well.
And especially Australia and New Zealand, you have relatively tight import controls for good reason. You're trying to keep your nature. You don't want the kudzu in the south of the U.S. situation where this Japanese vine has just taken over everything. You're trying to avoid that and keep your natural pristine. So specifically to COVID, if you can keep diseases out of your country, if I were in charge of Australia or New Zealand, I'd do the same.
Yeah, and it's pretty tight, but you're here, and we're very happy that you came.
When I travel here, I go through multiple things. You hear these horror stories about somebody bought a Subway sandwich at the Los Angeles airport, only ate half of it, put through in their backpack, go through customs. Like, yeah, you're bringing raw food in. Here's a fine.
And if people forget that your journey here, or people maybe don't know that your journey here was supposed to be direct, but you ended up going zigzagging across the world.
My journey here was roughly the same. I just had to go through LA instead of Dallas.
But didn't you have to have a nice, like, tight seat to sit in?
On Qantas, it was okay. On United, I had to pay for a seat. It's never easy.
So it was doubly
Qantas-
hard to get here, but here you are.
This is not a bash Qantas. They've been fine. Their planes stay in the
ahead,
air.
bash 'em.
Parts don't fall off. But they canceled my initial flight the day before I was supposed to come to Australia. I'm like, what the?
That is
Actually, New
poor form.
Zealand.
That is
They're like,
poor
what the? And they're like, now you're panicky. And then they put me on a different flight on different airlines that I don't get points on. You raised the point. I should go to the Qantas desk
Yeah, you should.
and ask for some kind of remuneration.
They're becoming more empathetic to the customers now. So if you ask,
Airlines empathetic? That must be an Australian thing.
it's an even in the news today. They're going to be more empathetic with their loyalty program and offering more bonuses. So go ask. If you don't get, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Worst that happens is they give me a free upgrade voucher, and on some flight I don't have to pay the $100 to get an exit row seat.
Yeah, ask.
So what do you do in Australia?
So my name's Phil Clapham. I'm the practice manager at Generation
Clapham?
E. Clapham.
I always call it Clap Fam.
And well, you can
Like
call
you're
it
part of the fam, man.
So it's named after South London.
Clapham Tootingbeck?
Correct. When my ancestors were passing through immigration, they were immigrating from Eastern Europe, and they came through in the train through Clapham Common. The story is that the immigration inspector was on and couldn't speak a word of English, and they just pointed to the sign that said Clapham, and that's how they got the name.
And then
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But
skip
yes.
the Eastern European part. You ended up where in Scotland, Ireland,
so family
England?
moved to Glasgow, but when I grew up in Glasgow, it was kind of rough. That's when Margaret Thatcher was around. I thought I need somewhere there's sunshine. My number one priority.
Maggie wasn't giving you the ray of sunshine, the ray of hope.
Oh, I don't know if I want to go down into that.
We don't want to go down into that conversation.
But I ended up, I had a couple of friends that were working in Sydney on working holiday visas. There's like this relationship between Australia and the UK, where you can go and work there for a year. They can come work here for a year.
So you
it's
kind of get a
popular.
free 1 year visa.
Yeah,
just
it's
relatively simple.
You can stay in a job for 3 months, then you go pick some strawberries and you go have a good time, party all the time. So then a couple of friends are out here, and I thought I need to go visit them. Very impulsive, jumped in a plane. That was the winter in the United Kingdom where it hit minus 23, and on the forecast on
For
TV,
people from America, that's freaking cold.
That's-
Minus 23, that's
it's
got to be
Celsius.
Yeah, that's below zero.
Well
That's below our zero. Yeah, well below zero.
So they were saying in the forecast, if you come out from the cold weather, don't have a hot drink because your teeth might shatter. And I went, nah, screw this. I'm getting on a plane. I got on a plane and came to Australia, and the sun was out. I was like, I'm never going home. That was it.
Sun's pretty much always out, except for today. It's a little rainy, but
It's not cold, but
it's not bad.
It's been good.
It's been good all day.
So, practice manager at Generation E. I used to work for Microsoft.
Did you? What'd you do at Microsoft?
I used to be the Surface Hub Global Black Belt at Microsoft.
Surface Hub Global Black
Surface Hub
Belt.
Global Black Belt.
What are your thoughts on Surface Hub becoming Teams Rooms? Windows? A future for the Surface Hub, the death of Surface Hub, or a natural evolution that'll...
Straight into the most leading question of
Yeah.
all.
You don't work for Microsoft anymore,
No,
so
I
the
know,
answer
but
doesn't
I
matter.
still have to be careful about how I word this. The intentional design of the Surface Hub was to be like a very good collaboration experience. It was never designed to be for video, right?
Correct.
When you were collaborating,
That's why you always got the little small
yes,
camera. and
you had to be up close to it, right? And of course, it was ahead of its time in many ways. So people didn't gravitate towards it because it required a lot of training. Like you had to know exactly what you wanted to use it for.
Yep.
So it was never going to go like very mainstream, you know. And that when customers started to use it for the right reasons, they absolutely loved it. And you couldn't take it away from them.
Correct.
They would seek it. They would go into the office, and it doesn't matter if it was booked for someone else. It's mine. Grab it. Walk
Yeah,
off
see,
with
when
it.
I was at Microsoft, you don't know this. I never became a GBB and all that into it, but I was heavily into it. I ended up going on two trips to customers to help them. They were experiencing issues with, shockingly, Miracast was one, and I forget what the other one was, but I was like engaged in that, and then my career kind of went a different way. So I was very much on the maybe I'll become a Surface Hub person.
So
Train.
to answer your question, now, because it never really went mainstream, the easiest way to get it to go mainstream is make it a Teams Room device. I can understand why you've done it, but you're also taking some of the cachet away. right?
Yep.
And then you're making it compete with other competitors that have very cheap boards. Well, no, it's Windows, and there's going to be a lot of AI in Windows. If they're just using it for video, it's not always clear that customer wants to even use it for more advanced functionality. So then you're literally competing on price. That makes
And
it
the
very
price
difficult
isn't
to sell.
a great story for
It's-
Surface
there's,
Hub.
there's other. Sometimes it's twice, 3 times more expensive than other competing solutions, albeit they're on Android.
Do you think it's the obvious direction to go, knowing Windows 10 TeamOS was always such a stepchild that it never got timely updates? On what, 2 years between updates
It's
once?
a very difficult question to answer because the original design of Surface Hub was by far the best operating system they'd made. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was very secure.
Very secure.
But to do that, to keep continuing to make it secure and provide updates, you have to have a whole separate development team. So you fork Windows into a separate code base,
Yep.
which is very expensive to do. And then you've got to maintain it, which means you've got to sell even more Surface Hubs to justify the cost of the development team. So I can understand, if you want to, like it's always like revenue versus cost. So I can understand why they've gone this way. But if you can postulate and hypothesize, if it just stayed with it a bit longer, stayed the course a bit longer, maybe it would have taken off. It'll take off. Maybe it'll take off in a way now, but it won't be for the same reasons.
Much like Surface Hub at the time, the Teams Rooms Windows variant is the first of its kind. It's the first Teams Rooms Windows that is a board form factor without a touch controller.
That's true.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously Microsoft's writing the code, or has written the code to make that work. Interesting to see if any other vendors will jump in and see if there's a market there. Because on the Android side, both Neat and Yalink have jumped on the board's side. Not many others have. It'll be interesting to see if Windows picks up another vendor or two.
Well, that's the whole purpose of Surface. Surface was supposed to create a category that other vendors would
was
then
it?
follow.
I guess it never quite did that way. Was it a goal to have 10 TeamOS on other people's devices? Like it's, hey, go just picking a name, ViewSonic.
Yeah.
They make wonderful screens.
Yeah.
Put one of those computer things on the back, run Windows 10 TeamOS, and you have a ViewSonic one, or was it meant differently
it
than
was
that?
always like the whole story around it was chip to operating system was just one vendor, so the security story would be guaranteed.
Okay.
But now, because you're changing the OS and making it Teams Rooms on Windows, it would make sense as Surface as a sort of category leader to say, hey, here's what you can do with Windows on a board.
Now that's
Yalink,
the case.
do it, or whoever else go do it, right?
Right.
And it gives a development pathway for more features to be developed for that board category, but doesn't necessarily have to be on Surface Hub.
Do you think and this is in general, I guess, on the Android side as well, think the form factor makes sense for a meeting room device?
Depends on your meeting type.
I guess, yeah, because I think like the collaboration and all that's fine. It's just the state. It's basically meant for standing.
So the first thing, I have to say I'm not that technical anymore. I used to be very deeply technical because now I run an actual practice, which means we've got teams of people who are
You got to
selling.
do management business stuff.
You've got to do management business stuff and make numbers and revenue targets.
Yeah!
And all the rest of it.
So
But
we all grow up as kids to want to be.
Yeah, it provides a level of challenge and oversight that I didn't get before, but I can take the learnings I took on my previous experience at Microsoft and pull them through. The thing that customers need help with, and every time I go to a customer, is like, what's your use case? Like, what is it you want this stuff for? A lot of customers will just say, I want this technology in a room, but they can't tell you what they want to use. Why? Because they're making a technology-centric decision as opposed to a people-centric decision.
How often do you find customers, because if you don't know, Phil's in the Teams Rooms AV world, right?
Yeah, I've been for a while.
Yeah. How often do customers read the marketing slick and say, this is what we want, if it makes no sense?
All the time.
All the time. So the marketing
time.
slicks work.
Oh,
And then it's your
absolutely.
job to go, okay, there's other things to consider. And then after a couple of weeks, like, okay, we'll go this. This is a better decision.
Marketing's so good now, but you used to see this with Surface Hub as an example. Like, it's so well put together, so well designed that I would see C-level executives at show go up to it and touch it,
Right.
and then something would happen, and the red mist would descend, and they go, "Oh, I want one of them," and they would literally take the credit card out and say,
Yeah,
"I want one,
the
buy
best
it."
demo ever was Bing Maps.
Yeah.
Just use your hands, zoom in. You can then do the ruler and measure distances, and I mean,
We're doing that in a meeting all the time, right?
all the time. Constant use case for that.
But
unless you're in like construction or something,
They,
there's no
they would
use case
literally,
for
like,
it.
they would literally, where can I want one? Get it delivered.
Correct.
Right, but when but there was no justification about why they would want it, and the marketing materials are so good now that people see the technology and it's slick and it works. But you actually have to figure out, Mike as a user, what type of meeting does he's going to have in this room? Like, what does he actually want to use it for? And then when you understand what that use case is for the user in the room, then fit the appropriate technology. Because there's no point in putting $40,000 of gear in a room that nobody's going to use. That was a thing that we learned the first time around.
Do you see a lot of whiteboard collaboration stuff going on in meetings, or is that more of a bullet point that doesn't get used much?
It's a bit of both. If you're
So the battery died on the camera. So what were we talking
so
about?
we were talking about whiteboard.
Other than I need
and how
another beer.
well it's
Marcelo.
adopted.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
How well is the tools like whiteboard being adopted? And you really have to again go back to like use cases. What are people actually doing their everyday work within their projects that require stuff to be whiteboarded for ideation and creation, even for just like mind mapping? Typically, I would use a whiteboard for mind mapping because you want that big canvas, complex idea, stick it down on that big canvas, share it to Mike. Hey, what do you think of this? Right. So there's use cases across the board, but you have to be taught how to use them. So you have to understand what people are doing in their everyday work to make them more efficient. So there's a whole ACM piece, adoption change management, around using these more advanced tools. Of course, anybody can walk into a meeting room and push a button to join a call and book a call and know how to use it.
Right.
But if you want to do more sophisticated
Hit the
stuff,
share button. Hit no.
Yeah.
No that.
Yeah. There's an element of knowledge and understanding that has to be taught to people, because they're not willing to, unable, willing, whatever the reason is, they're not going to spend the time to learn it because you're so time poor already. It's like Copilot.
Yeah.
How am I going to, I know that I need to use it.
Yep.
I know that's going to give me a return, but I have to invest the time how to learn how to do prompt engineering.
Correct.
If I'm smashed and I'm getting calls and when am I going to do that? I want someone to come over, right, and say, Phil, I'm going to just be the fly on the wall watching how you work today. And I'm going to take all sorts of notes around how you're working, the tools you're using, and then in a week's time I'm going to come back to you and say, you need to use it here, here, and here, and I'm going to train you how to do that.
I'm glad you mentioned adoption and change management. In my career, since I left IT, I have no visibility anymore on how people are trained.
Right.
So on Teams rooms, and we get to these features, and Teams in general, what does ProE do, or what are your personal opinions on how do we train people to do this stuff? When's the best time to train them? What are the best, more successful tools?
Well, one of the things about being like a partner who's invested in the Microsoft stack is when you think about the room, it's a subset of the overall person's exposure to M365.
Right.
Right? And the room generates a tremendous amount of data. So how do you help get that data out in a meaningful way? Well, it starts with understanding how the user needs to be trained, not just in the meeting room. Right? There's the during part of the meeting lifecycle is when you use the room.
Correct.
But there's what about the before and the after? So adoption and change management.
It's always kind of not amazed me, but the first step to using Teams rooms is knowing how to book an Outlook meeting.
Yeah.
It's like it starts before you ever got into the room.
Why are you booking an Outlook meeting? What's the agenda that you're setting? Who is it you're inviting? Are they going to be in the same time zone? Never mind the same room.
Right.
Right? And what's the experience for the person on the other side? There's a whole bunch of more factors that people need to think about in order to get the most out of your meeting. A lot of times when I book meetings with my team, I'll say, if you don't send an agenda, it's a straight rejection.
Right. It's a rejection.
It's a straight rejection. If you're not going to tell me what you want me to bring, why am I even there?
Right.
Like, give me some homework. I'm happy to do homework. Give me homework. Tell me what it is you want me to
I'll
bring
do some
to the meeting.
pre-reading.
Rather than have a meeting to talk about the homework you should have already done.
Correct.
Right? Because that is not productive. It's inefficient. I want to be more efficient and spend less hours doing work. Right? So if I can pack in as much as I can in a 6-hour day, as opposed to being inefficient and having to work 9 hours, which would you choose? You choose a 6-hour day.
Especially if I can do some golfing.
Yes.
Even though I don't golf. We're at a golf course, by the way.
So we train users to think about this stuff because we're all habituated, right? We're habituated into doing things in a certain way, and it's very hard to break that habit, right? You have to be shown, 3, 4, 5, 6 times the reason why you should do it somewhere different.
Was my question based incorrectly in that how do you use Teams Rooms? It's really how do you use Office 365? And Teams Rooms is just one chapter of the...
It's a very important piece, right? It's a very critical piece because that during portion generates more data than the before and the after piece.
How do you mean by data?
So
I mean, this is because I imagine you're talking pre-Copilot, so most people aren't using transcripts and most people aren't
Correct.
recording meetings. So what other data is there to
So if you
collect?
think about why you're booking a meeting, if you book your meeting, you've got your agenda in there, you've got all your action items and your topics you're going to discuss. When you actually start the meeting and we're having a conversation with our cohorts and our cohorts elsewhere,
Right.
the data is being generated about what's the path forward, what are the actions we need to do. All that information needs to be captured so that it can be disseminated to the people after the meeting so they're not wasting time
Correct.
3 hours trying to figure out, hey, what do we talk about? What does that need to action? Like it should be clearly laid out and boom, Mike, off to the races, go gather what you need to so when the next meeting comes around, our homework is done and we can discuss all the topics at hand.
So you're talking less IT nerd data, but more
User
notes
conversation,
and notes and tasks
actions,
and
correct, all that stuff. Like we want to be able to be efficient, so we don't want to have to find this. It needs to be. What I'm saying is, it needs to be surfaced easily for the user, so they can take it and run with it, rather than having to go find it. That panning for gold piece is not very efficient.
how easy is it for users to pick up on this? And as a follow-up to which you have no probably answer to, is generational an impact on how quickly people pick this
I
up?
don't think demographics generation play any sort of role in it. I think if the user is invested into wanting to learn how to do something better, that is the only thing that matters, right? Because you can teach anybody, if they've got a growth mindset and an open mind, you can teach them how to do it better. Because ultimately, it's even in any job role, it's competitive, right? And if you want that promotion, if you want to close that project, you want to know how to be better at what you're doing,
Right.
so you can have that competitive edge. So as long as you've got the idea that, hey, I might be able to do this a better way, or hey, Mike, can you help me do this? That's all that matters. Generation, age, all that stuff, gender, there's no bearing, in my opinion. Of course, that might be very controversial.
I mean, it's your experience of working at a
Yeah, it is.
consulting firm, whatever you want to call it, an integrator.
It's like when I hire for people, yeah, they have to have a certain skill set. The thing I'm looking for the most is, do they have a growth mindset?
Can are they sharp?
They sharp enough.
Not necessarily do they have the skills.
they
I
have
think they can pick
desire?
up those skills.
It's
Yeah.
like with Alex Ferguson, who's a very famous football manager.
Sir, he's a sir.
Sir Alex Ferguson, very sorry. Cohort from mine from Govan. He said he'll pick hard work over skill any day of the week because you cannot build a team just on skill.
Correct. We've seen that. In the NBA and other leagues, they put together this team of all-stars, but you end up having a bunch of individual players and no team.
Teamwork's the key. So
They
if
don't
you-
want to pass, or they get selfish, or egos get in the way. And you just need those 2 or 3 guys that don't care and will muddy their shirt up for the team to free up the superstar to do his or her thing.
Now, why should that ethos in sports be any different to working in an everyday workplace? It's not. It's exactly the same.
Can we get paid like Sir Alex Ferguson?
Maybe
Yeah, win a bunch of titles
someday,
first.
Yeah, well, you get to be manager of Bayern Munich and I get to
Yeah.
be manager of Manchester United.
There you go.
Then I'll wake up.
How I did pick up on we had ice cream the other day.
Yes.
How easy is it, or how hard? How much work do you have to do to be a Manchester United fan in Australia?
I don't know how to answer that question. It's hard because the time zone difference is a killer.
Yes, it is. Games are on at 2 a.m., 4 a.m.
So, I'm obviously Manchester United aren't in the European Cup anymore, but Manchester City are and they're playing Real Madrid tonight. I think the game kicks off at 8. So even with the time change, you're looking at actually it's 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, which might not be too bad, but it's hard. It's hard.
Let's see. Bayern and Arsenal kick off at 3 Eastern. There's a 14-hour time difference, which makes it so in an hour and a half. Is that right? I can watch a game during the day?
Right,
That doesn't sound right at all.
Because that would be perfect timing.
That doesn't
for you.
sound right at all. 5 p.m.
Like
no.
we're in the
No,
golf
that's
club,
completely
turn the
wrong.
TV on, give me a beer.
No, that's completely wrong because
I'm
the Astros beat the Rangers today, and that game's already over, and that's like 7 p.m. in the States or 10 p.m. in the States.
We'll work it out. But it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have kids, there's other motivations in life. But when those kids grow up to be football fans, it definitely helps.
So what do? You record the games? You watch the games? You just read the paper? You watch YouTube highlights? All of it?
Typically watch the YouTube highlights. If it's a really good game, I'll probably sit down and watch the recording.
So if it's a FA Cup final or even quarterfinal, you'll stay up till 5 a.m. or whatever. Or 3 a.m.?
Manchester City, Real
Oh, the
Madrid.
city.
That's got a bit of history now. That's probably a game where we should sit down and probably watch.
So you
Because
might-
being in Bernabeu, that'll be exciting to watch. And Arsenal, Bayern as well will be a good game. to
Yeah,
watch.
I don't want to check the score. I imagine it's over by now. I don't know, man. Time zones. The thing is, because I'm on this so many time zones in such a short amount of time, I'm like hard to remember what day it is.
Well, tell us.
I just know
tell us
tomorrow I have a
about-
flight to
tell
India.
Us about your flight to India. You said I'm not zigzagging across the world, but you are zigzagging across the
I'm
world.
zigzagging across a little over half the world, which means at the end of this trip I will have flown enough miles to go around the circumference, the equator
Yeah.
of the Earth, plus an extra like 3,000 miles.
Hats off to you. But you're seeing some stuff you've never seen before. Seeing some places you've never been
I've
before.
never seen a golf course in Sydney.
You've never been to India before, is that right?
I've never been to India, never been to New Zealand.
That'll be a really,
So New Zealand, I got to see where the hobbits live.
that'll be a really interesting experience.
India, I've never been to. I love Indian food, and apparently at the hotel we're at, like on travel, not Travelocity, travel, whatever, one of those websites. It's like a 5-star Indian restaurant. So I sent it to Sharath Abraham, my coworker, my peer, and I always joke that I'm going to order chicken tikka masala, and he's like, only tourists do that. So I sent him the menu. I'm like, tell me what I'm going to order. And he just replies back and goes, "You're going to some fancy ass place. I don't even know what half this food is. I know Indian street food, man." But he did give me some. He did give me some recommendations, so I'll follow it.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be a fantastic
And
experience.
my freezer at home, the frozen food is almost all Indian.
I've been to India a few times, and it'll be a really eye-opening experience.
I hear the traffic is smooth.
I'm saying nothing.
All right. I think our conversation's run its course. We
Last question I've got for you.
Oh, you got a
is,
question for me?
How did you get to work yesterday?
We took an Uber.
You took an Uber. You didn't take
Yes.
the ferry.
There wasn't a lot of traffic.
Okay.
It wasn't bad. The question is, how did we get home?
How did you get home?
We took the fast ferry.
Nice.
We took the train from the office to the Circular Quay and then the fast ferry.
So just for everybody, Mike said he was staying in Manly. I was like, Manly, that's a bit of a weird place to stay because it's so far away.
By the way, come to
business
find out,
thing.
Marcelo, whose name I've mentioned, lived in Manly for 6 years, so he kind of wanted to go back home.
Right. So that's the reason why you booked the hotel. But it was still a bit of a weird place to choose. But I'm thinking, well, if you want a nice ride to work, then taking the ferry to work is always fun. But I'm glad you did it at least one way.
And last time I was here, you told me to take the ferry to Manly because you get the best view of the Sydney Opera House. And the slow ferry is the way to go if you're a tourist.
Yeah.
If I lived here, fast ferry is the only one I'd take. I just know, like I didn't time how long the last ferry went, but it seemed like it was a half hour. It seemed like fast ferry was like 10 minutes. It was not a gracious, enjoyable tourist boat ride. It was a, I want to get home and do laundry ride.
Well, glad you came. Safe journey. Godspeed back to St. Petersburg via India and the Philippines.
Via India and the Philippines, yeah.
But hopefully you'll be out.
And Tokyo. There's a transfer in Tokyo. Not enough time to stay in Tokyo. So I have a rule that you're never in a country or a city unless you've left and broken bread or spent the night.
Yeah.
I am not, airports don't count. So even if I eat in the Tokyo airport, which I'm sure I will, that does not count as me having ever been in Japan. I'm in some international purgatory transferring through. So
Well, I still appreciate the fact that you've come all this way. And
Thanks.
now that the time change isn't so bad, I reckon I can make a 1 a.m. call on the MTT AMA.
and aka.ms/mtdama, Phil, Justin, who else is on?
And
Justin
Andrew
there?
Higgs.
Andrew Higgs, Higgsy,
and
of course.
Big Graham Walsh.
Yeah, and, well, Graham, yeah, because he's insane. Or the time zone works better for the UK than it does
I think
the
it works
States.
better for him now as
Yeah.
well. So
Because it's kind of early morning for him. It's like 6 a.m. or something like that for him.
It's now going to be like 8 or 9 a.m.
8 or 9 a.m. Yeah,
more
and for me it's
sociable.
still 3 a.m.
Well, yes.
Something like that.
We need to work on our time zones.
Yeah.
But 1 a.m.
Thanks,
be on the
Phil.
next
Again,
one.
thanks for everything you've done for
No
me when I'm
worries.
here. You've been an excellent host. And
Cool.
Bye, everyone. We need to go hit golf balls and get a beer.